Brace for impact. Cross the line.
This is my destiny. It is the truth I see. In this world I find a way to cross the line. Everybody's doing what everybody's doing. Everybody's doing the same thing. I'll be doing what I'll be doing. I'll be doing my thing. The world spins round to the right, they say. I'll be spinning the other way. Doing what I can, doing what I know. The world's my stage and I'm the show. It is my destiny. It is the truth I seek. In this world I find a way to cross the line. No possibilities for originality. Don't be left behind. Go ahead and cross the line.
Hey now, it's Brace for Impact, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm going solo on that ass, but it's still the same. We're talking TNA wrestling, and folks, it's here. We got breaking news.
Breaking news.
Yes, you read that right. If you're reading the header or if you were up late last night, you saw the news. While a lot of media outlets are stopping short of actually reporting this, I'm here to tell you that TNA is in fact headed to AMC Network. It is happening. That's where they're going. AMC put out a little teaser last night. It was just a video with just some audience noise in the background. And hold on. All right. Yeah. So it was just a video with some audience noise in the background. And I was told within minutes of that was everything I thought it was. That you just think TNA is in fact headed to AMC. Gerard is saying that it's confirmed it's happening. Yep. I think my buddy Blake is actually reporting it right now. Hold on, in real time. So this is from my buddy Blake. He is the one that reported long before it ever got announced that the AAA was being sold to WWE. And he's had a lot of other MMA reports. He writes for the MMA Draw. So this is what he is saying. He says, sources, TNA is headed to AMC. The multi-year U.S. rights deal is finalized and expected to land around $30 million, with January 15, 2026 set as the launch date. Sources also indicate WWE intends to end its NXT TNA partnership. Their agreement includes a 60-day termination clause, and the AMC deal activates it. The WWE thing, that's new. That is wild if that ends up landing. But I'm here to tell you that TNA is headed to AMC Network. I found out last night. I went with it last night. I wanted to go live last night, but I just couldn't. But yes, it is happening. Now, Blake is reporting that because they're headed to AMC Network, that the WWE partnership is off the table. We'll see how that works out. Blake is pretty good. So he's been right about some stuff before. So we'll see how that lands. If the WWE partnership is over, I'm cool because I'm like sick of it. I don't like NXT. I'm sick of it. The big crowds have been awesome, right? And WWE obviously has played a big part in that, but I also think that there were other factors involved. WWE being the largest factor, but I think the Hardy Boys played a huge factor. Joe Hendry got hot at the right time. That played a huge factor. But if WWE does in fact pull out, I would expect that their ratings won't be as good, and the crowds will be a little bit smaller. But we'll get our show back. So hopefully, if that is true, and we'll hold out. That's what Blake's reporting. I have not independently heard that. I have independently heard that TNA is in fact headed to AMC Network. So that much I do know, and I'm not disputing anything that Blake said. I just haven't heard it from anybody else. So. But Blake, like I said, Blake is pretty good. So, but yeah, if WWE does in fact pull out, and the final resolution is the final NXT TNA date, then it's going to go out with a whimper because NXT sent the biggest group of scrubs. Not that they're not talented guys. They are talented guys. But the biggest group of scrubs to work the last TNA show. So, and then as you noticed, and I mean, this could be true. As you noticed, Lei Ying Lee did win the TNA Knockouts Championship last Tuesday, right? Yeah, she beat Kalani Jordan. So if they're doing a clean split at the end of the year, and NXT and TNA is going to go its own way, I think that's best for everybody involved, to be honest with you. Not that the WWE partnership hasn't been great. It has, as far as business wise. I haven't liked a lot of the TV, but as far as business wise, it's been great. And look, you can't say that the WWE partnership has been anything other than successful, because I don't think that TNA gets this deal without that partnership. I don't. They, because of the partnership, they had the big crowds. The big crowds generated a ton of interest for TV execs, and obviously they tripled their app subscriptions, which is very helpful. And the only thing that they needed was a TV deal, and they got the TV deal. So if TNA used WWE to get the TV deal and now it's done, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, Dobby says it best. It's wild to see that TNA actually be the ones that use WWE. In the end, it was TNA that used WWE. TNA used WWE to get what they wanted, and they got a TV deal, and now that deal might be done. Again, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see how that all plays out. But yeah, TNA headed to AMC. I am curious to see exactly what the details are. I know Blake said $30 million deal. But how many years is that? Is that a 3-year deal? That would be pretty standard. Or is that like a 4-year deal? Is there escalators? What I'm curious about is if AMC Plus is involved. If AMC Plus is involved, I think that's a big deal too. If TNA Plus can move all of their content to AMC Plus, at least domestically, because I don't know that AMC Plus is available worldwide. I know some of you guys that are from around the world could probably tell me. I don't really know. But if TNA Plus, that content goes to AMC Plus, that's good for Mike. So, and that's what's most important. But I think it's also good for TNA because AMC Plus has 20 million subscribers versus TNA Plus having 20,000, right? Maybe 20, 25,000. So, this is a big day for TNA. I've been covering this story for 4 years. This is a big day for Brace for Impact. Most importantly, I've been covering this story for 4 years. It was the summer of 2021 that Len Asper, the man who owns Anthem, which ultimately owns TNA, teased on Twitter that there was a big new distribution deal coming. And it turns out that deal was actually a deal for Russia and the Balkans, right? Like Dagestan and Serbia and all these other places. It was a deal for the Balkans, and I was like crushed when I found that out. It was funny because I actually emailed somebody that works in TNA to get clarification, and they told me that the Russian deal wasn't the big new distribution deal that Len Asper was talking about, that there was something else coming, and then nothing else ever came. And so I was on the story, and Gerard was on the story for a long time, and then it just dropped off. And then every 6 months or so, we'd hear rumors that TNA might be talking to this company. TNA might be talking to this company. I don't know how many freaking thumbnails and headlines and YouTube videos I've got out of this TV deal, and it's good for business, by the way. Like, a lot of the TNA TV distribution deals, they're what I call $5 videos. They do well enough. They have enough traction to get like $5 in YouTube ads. So, but I've been covering it for so long. I got to the point where I was sick of it. There was one point I was like hand waving, like I didn't want to cover it anymore. I was really done. But then Carlos Silva hooked me back in, and he was just so confident that a TV deal was coming. And I was pretty confident too. Last year at the end of the year, I did my It was almost exactly a year ago when TNA took off 2 weeks at the end of the year, like they always do. I said that I want them to go for 5,000 fans in an arena, right? So 5,000 tickets. They reached that twice. I said that I wanted them to get a new TV deal, and then I predicted that the TV deal would be around $10 million a year, and it looks like that we hit all those marks. Oh, and then I said I want them to bring to get AJ Styles back for a show, and they did that too. So everything I challenged them to do, they did, with one exception, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But this is a great day for TNA. There's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to try to dog this deal, and they're going to use the TNA is number 2 discourse to try to lessen how big of a deal that this is. Those are not good people, right? Those are not serious people. Those are not people that you need to be paying attention to. Anybody that says anything other than this is a big deal and a major upgrade for TNA, they're liars and they're grifters and they're losers, okay? This is a fucking huge deal for TNA. Is this going to put them into the number 2 stratosphere? Absolutely not. And I don't think anybody thinks that was actually the case. So don't listen to the Raj Garys and the Justin fake news Barrasos and those guys. Those guys are WWE paid grifters on the take, trying to pump up TNA to take away from AEW. And if TNA and WWE are no longer in partnership, just watch just watch the way that they talk about TNA. These are guys that are not actually watching TNA. They're just building up TNA to create a narrative to try to downplay AEW. Those guys are not serious. What this does is it gives them a basic cable channel, a top 30 network, and this is the biggest channel that they've been on since they left Spike TV. Now, Pop TV was like a decent station, but it wasn't really decently watched, but it did have good coverage. But AMC is like a legit, in the United States, if you guys are from around the world, AMC is a big time station. Like Walking Dead has been on it, and they have all the spinoff series. Right now they're doing the Interview with the Vampire series. And right now it's a good time to be if you have AMC, because they do all the holiday classic movies like Christmas Vacation and all that stuff, and Die Hard and all the different movies. So it's like a big time of year for AMC. But this is also the network that Breaking Bad used to be on, Better Call Saul used to be on, Mad Men used to be on. And right now they have Dark Winds is a big show that's currently on Netflix doing really good numbers. So AMC is a big channel, significantly better than Access TV, and that's the story. Is it as big as it could have been had they gone to CW? No. The viewership on CW would be probably a lot better. Whereas I think what we're looking at with TNA on AMC is probably in between 200,000 to 300,000. There'll probably be some weeks where they're actually below 200,000, and that's okay. Average for the stations, like 350 or something like that, and they typically beat whatever station they're on. They typically beat the station average, but this network kind of has some big hits. When they were on Spike TV didn't have big television hits. That's what Paramount Network is today, where they have Yellowstone, which I think just ended, and a couple of other hit TV shows. Back then Spike TV didn't have that, so TNA was the biggest thing on the network when they were there, and so they outperformed the average. They outperformed the average on Pop TV. They outperformed the average on Access, which I think the average for Access without TNA is like 5,000. Daza, my brother from the UK, is AMC something that has to be subscribed to? No, it's on basic cable, right? So it's on most every cable package as part of your basic cable subscription. Like I have YouTube TV, and it just comes with it. And not only that, like there's spin-off networks that AMC has. So they have AMC Thrillers, and I think one other AMC, but there is a subscription service called AMC Plus, which they show a lot of original horror movies. They also own Shudder, and AMC owns MSG. So the owners of AMC are the Dolan family, which owns Madison Square Garden and the Knicks and MSG Network. So that's a pretty big deal. Like I said, I'm telling you guys, AMC is big time. There are going to be people that downplay this. Don't let them downplay it. This is a big deal any way you look at it. And the way they're going to try to downplay it is they're going to try to compare it to what AEW has. AEW has a better TV deal than TNA by far. They're on a bigger network and they're making a lot more money. And it's okay to say that. That is not insulting. That is mathematics. That's what we call arithmetic. Okay. And that's not a big deal. That's not an insult to anybody. That is just fact and reality. But they're going to say that because there have been people that have been trying to prop up TNA as the number 2 promotion, which was never a likelihood, which is never really a real possibility. And so, like, don't even pay any attention to that. Like, ignore those type of people. Those are not good people. Today is just a day to celebrate the TNA's accomplishment of using WWE, right, for the first time ever. WWE is the one that got used. and everybody's been saying that WWE's been, being predators to TNA, when in fact TNA the entire time has been using WWE to get this TV deal. TNA has been using WWE to sell these tickets, the end goal was to get this TV deal. Now, it was reported months ago by several outlets that WWE wanted to prop up TNA to take away from AEW, and I believe that is true, and that they also wanted TNA to go on Wednesday nights head-to-head with AEW, and I'm sure WWE did want that. And I'm sure if they got onto CW, that would have been the case. But it seems to me that TNA took the better money offer, and I don't know what CW was offering, so this is just Mike spitballing here. But and maybe that was what led to the end of potentially led to the end of the WWE partnership. Tony Charizard, is it Tony Chazard? Sorry, dude, I'm on my iPad today, so I can't really read some of this stuff. You just saw what Blake just posted. Yeah, I did read what Blake posted, and I believe Blake heard that, right? I don't think Blake is lying when he says that. It's one of those things where we need to probably wait and see. That doesn't mean I don't believe him. I do believe him, but let's just see if more outlets pick that up before I say unequivocally that unequivocally WWE and TNA partnership is dead. Okay, but signs are pointing in that direction. So I'm kind of like, I'm not there yet, but I'm pretty close to being there, right? And I'm not trying to discount Blake at all. Like, I like Blake. Blake is a friend, and I believe him when he says it. So let's see. Let's get to your guys' chats. Throw it on your chat if you got any questions for me or comments or want my opinion on something. Drop it in the chat. It says, yes, TNA to AMC, right move for TNA. I like the fact that they're on an unaffiliated WWE network because for this very reason. If the partnership did end, WWE wouldn't have any influence over the network. I never trusted WWE in this situation. I always felt that at the end of the day, it was going to be WWE that screws over TNA. That was always in the back of my mind. And I just had to report it as such. Like, every time something happened, I was like, is this WWE being evil? Like, that is their history. They've ruined every company that they've ever worked with. Since like the Vince McMahon Jr. era in the 1980s, every partnership that WWE had has gone south, right? It never ends well. So, like, the lesser partner always ends up in a worse place than they were in when they started. If this WWE partnership is over, and that's legit, and I don't have any reason to believe that it's not, but if it comes out that that's true, this would be the first time where a promotion, a smaller promotion, a junior promotion that was working with WWE ends up better after the partnership with WWE ends than when they started. That'll be the first time ever. And if that happens, then I think Carlos Silva should go into the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. Like he should be a promoter of the year, and go into the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame like with a unanimous vote. I think that's a big deal. Hold on, corporate phone is going off. I don't have any big meetings coming up for the next hour or so. So I actually had some time this morning. Hold on. Okay, yeah, I have a big meeting later today, but I have a little bit of time this morning, so I got all of my admin stuff done, so I have time. Okay. Where's the article from Blake? It's on Twitter right now, so go check Twitter. Will McBride says, where was the show when I needed working my overnight shift? I had enough information to go live last night. I did. I couldn't go live last night because my son is getting his 1-year-old molars, and it was just a nightmare in the house. Couldn't do it. And my wife put him down, and then he kept waking back up. We were giving him some like a baby Tylenol and baby Gas X, and having to take turns, and so it was a whole mess last night. So I couldn't go live. So we'll see. All right. If it's over, I guess AJ Styles' dream match is gone unless TNA can convince AJ to do a run with them once the WWE deal is up. I don't think that an AJ Styles match was really ever on the table. TNA never got a single main roster star on their show in a match. It just didn't happen. WWE, the deal was with NXT, and that was it. There was no deal for main roster stars. I think the only way they could have gotten an AJ Styles is if they paid a significant booking fee, which is how I think Noah was able to get both Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles for their shows. I think that they just paid WWE a fee and they were able to lease the talent for a night, right? Like contract the talent for a night. Much like WWE used to send Andre the Giant to the territories, they had to get a cut of the gate and all that stuff. That is my personal theory. I don't know that for a fact, but that is my theory. And I don't think TNA was in the position financially to be able to meet their asking price if they even broached the topic, which I don't know that they did. So what we got with AJ Styles was very much a Christian Cage-like showing up at Slammiversary and putting over the company. In this case, AJ Styles put over the company and put over verbally put over Leon Slater. All right, let's see. Yeah. Carlos Silva, Wrestling Observer Hall of Famer for sure. Let's see. Eli, Impact Faithful Podcast 2027. Yeah, that podcast is coming in 2027, man. You just keep hope alive. It's coming. But TNA on AMC is huge. Yeah, it is. Yeah, babies in diapers are tough. Let's see. The heat is on 76 says Marigold had to pay IO fee. It was pricey. Yeah. I don't think WWE is sending these talent out there for goodwill gestures. I think this is a money deal. I think they're doing it for money, and I don't blame them for that. They should do it for money. They hold the cards. Like, if you want our talent on your show, you should have to pay, especially whenever if we're going to send a significant star like an IO or Io Sky or an AJ Styles, or Nakamura used to be, but not really so much. If they go to your company and they get hurt, all like Ridge Holland did with TNA, like, we need to be able to recoup some of the benefit off of that, right? Okay, this is a good question. So Tony asks, are you expecting the talent to be retained after this announcement? So a lot of media sites have been making a big to-do about TNA's contract deals with their talent coming due at the end of this year. I would expect most of them, like 8 out of 10, to be retained. I don't ever think that was really all that big of a story. In fact, I didn't even cover it because this happens every year. Like AJ Francis signs 1-year deals. You know, a lot of talent signs 6-month, 9-month, 1 year, 15-month deals. So they're constantly in contract negotiations. So I would expect that most of those talents are probably going to be retained. I would expect new talent coming in, like we heard Bear Bronson from AEW, got released from AEW, and looks like he's making a big name for himself on the Indies as a deathmatch wrestler. I think he is a New Jersey guy. He might even be Brian Myers trained. I'm not really too sure. I think he might be. If I'm wrong on that, I apologize. Maybe somebody can correct me. But it looks like he might be getting brought in, which I think that's a good talent to bring in. I could see them making plays for other stars as they become free agents. I think they're going to be in a better position to be able to not only retain talent, but bring new talent in and keep more talent on the roster than they did before. TNA has always kept their talent roster small, and they kind of rotate them in and out, much like a territory would do back in the day. A lot of talent is on like per date deals. Now, do I think that Matt Cardona and Nick Nemeth are going to sign long-term deals? Their history tells me that they're not going to do that. I think Matt Cardona still is holding out hope to go back to WWE full-time, and I just don't know that that's ever going to happen for him, and I hope it does happen for him. Like, he seems to be like a good dude. I've never met the guy. Nick Nemeth, I don't know. He's weird. I think if Nemeth is able to commit to TNA long term and make TNA a priority, like I think that's really good for TNA. But I just don't know. But Leon Slater, this deal doesn't give TNA the position to be able to block AEW and WWE from taking their talent all the way. Like, those two organizations have deeper pockets and much greater resources to take any talent off TNA's roster, regardless of this TV deal. But what it does do is it just puts them in a better position to retain more of their talent. But if there's a guy like Leon Slater, let's see, the heat is on. If there's a guy like Leon Slater, if WWE wants him bad enough, they're going to get him, and there's nothing that TNA is going to be able to do about it. Even if they sign a $10 million a year deal for AMC, like, that changes nothing there. But there's been a lot of talent over the years that have left, not because they had a deal waiting for them from WWE or from AEW. There's been a lot of talent over the years that have just been wanting like a little bit of a bump in pay. And TNA was not in the position to be able to do that, so they just left and went and worked the indies, and then ended up coming back later, right? So I think this should put them in a position to be able to keep their talent longer, keep some talent away from AEW and WWE, but this does not prevent a Leon Slater from going to a WWE or Mike Santana down the road. I think Mike Santana's probably already re-signed, but say in a year or two, he had a good run as a top guy in TNA, and WWE wants him bad enough, they're going to take him, right? AEW wants him bad enough, they're going to take him. There's not really much that TNA is going to be able to do about a situation like that. So, but this puts them in a better position to be able to retain. Like, that's the long and short of it. Okay. Let's see. If the partnership ends today, WWE partnership that Blake is reporting, he's under a TNA contract while still working for NXT this weekend. I would assume what Blake is talking about is they have a 60-day clause, is what he said in that contract. And they give him a 60-day notice. So all the storylines they have active, they can probably finish up. Just because they split, that doesn't mean they're splitting on a sour note. That doesn't mean they can't ever work together again. I don't think that means anything like that. I think it means that like the full-time partnership would be over, if that were the case. But it doesn't mean like it's a hard split. We're completely done. If that were the case, I get the feeling that if they are in fact done, the matches that we have booked for Final Resolution this weekend will go on as advertised, and Leon Slater's match with NXT would go on as advertised. And then I bet if WWE wanted to continue to get dates on Leon Slater, that could be worked out, right? TNA owes WWE a lot here. They really do. TNA was not doing good for a long time. And once they announced that the name changed from Impact Wrestling to TNA, things just started incrementally getting better. And then boom, the WWE partnership hits. And then now they're up here, right? Now they're doing 5,000 seats, 6,000 seats, right? They triple their app subscriptions, and now they're selling out decent sized venues. They're in some cases, like there have been several episodes of Impact that have had more people in the audience, like as far as live attendance, than Dynamite, right? Because Dynamite's working smaller venues, but we never thought that was possible. So, and we never thought that was possible under the Impact Wrestling era, because they were doing like bars with a few hundred people in it. Now they did have some bigger shows in that era, and then once they hit the TNA name change, they did have some, decent sized shows, but nothing like what they're doing right now. It's insane. So, let's see. Gerard says, just because WWE activates the out clause, doesn't mean they'll end it. WWE could probably choose to continue it. Might just be a default clause. Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. We need to wait and see how this whole thing plays out. Okay. Nora Spark says, in the future, TNA will get back to wrestlers that went to AEW or WWE that weren't used properly, like Deonna Purrazzo. Look, Steve Macklin is a guy whose deal is coming up. I get the feeling that TNA is in a position to be able to keep him happier, to where he won't like play hardball and bail, and Ace Austin. Like Ace Austin left the company not because he had an AEW deal waiting for him. There was like a period in between where he actually debuted on AEW. He left because he probably wanted a little bit of a bump in pay, and TNA wasn't able to do that, so he bailed, which rightfully so. Know your worth. I think this prevents things like that from happening. Now, Deonna Purrazzo was somebody that AEW absolutely wanted, so I don't think that TNA was going to prevent her from going there at all. But could they bring her back? Yes. And can they retain Steve Macklin? Yes. Can we get them both back in the same crib? For sure. I think TNA is in a better position to be able to do stuff like that. All right. Let's see. And TNA needs to focus on creative. Yes. So my big challenge at TNA at the end of last year was to make creative again. Stop doing paint by numbers, creative booking, bumping. Like Vince Russo was just saying, wrestlers bumping into each other backstage or interrupting interview time. And then now we have a feud that happens like every week. It is so boring. That is not creative. Like they're paying people to write these TV shows and they're not writing. Okay. And then the big angle that they shot with Mike Santana and Frankie Kazarian is almost beat for beat. Small tweaks here and there of the Josh Alexander angle from 3 years ago. So my challenge to them going forward is make creative again. Don't go, keep your left and right boundaries. Don't go sci-fi. I know they're going to be on AMC, so maybe they don't want to bring Jimmy Jacobs back, but you can bring that guy back, but say, okay, we're not going to kill people. We're not going to do horror, and we're not going to do sci-fi, but let's open the aperture, because Tommy Dreamer and Delirious are very paint by numbers, booking style, right? Very old school type style. Like two people are fighting just because they want to fight, right? When we need better in-depth storylines, we need more storylines like Mike Santana and Mustafa Ali, and less storylines like Jake something turns heel because he gets an offer from Frankie Kazarian and then 2 weeks later it's dropped. Right. So, all right. Oh, Godilla in the house. What's up, Godilla? All right. Stephen Patrick, Leon could end up like Desmond Xavier if he goes to WWE. Why would you compare him to Desmond Xavier? I don't know. Leon Slater is Will Ospreay level. And if WWE doesn't bring him in, AEW absolutely will. So I think that WWE will probably make him a big offer. and there's nothing that TNA is going to be able to do about it. So just enjoy Leon Slater and TNA while you can. That would be my advice. Yeah, I don't think he's long for the company, and he shouldn't be. Even with this deal, TNA is still a relatively small company compared to WWE and AEW. If TNA is getting $10 million a year, let's just throw that number out there. Okay, I don't know what the number is. We'll get the details later. If they're getting $10 million a year, WWE is making like close to $1 billion a year. And AEW is getting what, 180, 185 a year just on their TV deals alone. And that's not taking into account live attendance revenue, which is probably, they're probably losing on some of those shows that they do. But the big shows are still doing 10,000 plus. At one point, they did over 20,000 for their show in Texas all in. And they're still clearing 100,000 for their pay-per-views. So TNA still, this doesn't change the dynamic in the hierarchy. It's still WWE. It's still AEW. And then now we got solidified number 3, TNA. Because now they have what a lot of companies around the world don't have, is a paying TV deal, which is what they've been missing for a long time. And I don't want to say, look, Access was paying TNA. And I know that's been the narrative, that they've just been airing the show for free on Access. That's not the case, right? Anthem up here has like these pots of money, right? And that flows down, right? And then each company within that umbrella just gets an annual budget. And TNA's annual budget was based off of what they're doing for Access and what they're doing on their app subscriptions, what they're doing on pay-per-view, and what they're doing in live attendance. And that's how they would get their annual budget set for the year. I had similar when I was in the military. I had to manage our budget for the year, and that would just trickle down from the DoD down to like your MAGCOM level to the base level. And for medical group, we were getting our budget, like Congress would give the budget to the Defense Health Agency, and then they would kick it out to all the medical groups around the Air Force and around all the services. But I'm Air Force, and then I would see my budget for the year, and then I would have to spend within that budget. And if I wanted to go over budget, I had to fill out a request and go over budget. And then every year I'd have to justify my budget. A similar situation with TNA on Access, right? Like Access may have not given them a rights fee, but because they're on Access, they got a budget, if that makes sense, right? So maybe it wasn't a rights fee, call it a budget, call it a rights fee. They were still getting money every year, right? They were getting money from Anthem every year to put on shows, if that makes sense. All right. Need a Jeff Jarrett 0506 unique creative. Jeff Jarrett did a really good job of bringing in a lot of young talent out of necessity. And I think once they got away from that and started to focus on the older kind of washed up talent that was not interested in making TNA a big deal, that's when TNA started to lose its way. I would like the energy back from 0506. That's what I would like to see. Wesley had a good run in NXT. Poor guy broke his back. All right. And this is where you can snatch young talent. Yeah, so that's where I would like to see TNA focus their efforts, is on young, unsigned, independent talent and supplement through free agency, right? I think the majority of the roster should be homegrown style talent. And then you bring in the Hardys and you bring in other names from WWE or AEW. And that's what's going to get you the ticket sales that you're looking for. And then while you're still growing up, growing your roster and honing your talent and grooming them to take that next step. Like I compare it to the 49ers defense. They got rid of a bunch of veteran guys last year who weren't cutting it. They're on bigger contracts. A lot of them were injured a lot. And then when they were, they were still good players, but just not producing at the level of the contract that would dictate it. So they got rid of a bunch of guys, and they got a bunch of draft picks, and then they started just grooming young stars to where I think they have like 6 or 7 rookies starting on defense right now. It's like roughly half. And at the beginning of the year, they weren't that good. Here we are at the end of the year, doing really good, right? I think TNA needs to kind of look at that model. And look at the model of the Los Angeles Rams from a couple years ago. They did a similar thing. Focus on the draft, right? Focus on the independent scene. Groom some young talent. They might not be able to get you what you need right now. What you have a couple of your key free agents and a couple key big names. Focus on those young talent, grow them, mold them, and then eventually they're going to be what you want them to be if you have the right coaches in place, and you have the right creative team in place. And right now, I just don't know that I trust the creative team to get something like that done. Let's see. Nicholas Riley says, "This is huge for TNA. Really curious what the terms are." Yeah, I am curious about that too. We don't have any details as of right now, other than what Blake's reporting, a $30 million deal. Let's see. Godella says, "We need to spam Silva about creative. Something needs to change because what they have right now is not good enough for a big network, if that makes sense. What they had before, because a lot of these WWE fans that are showing up to the live events, they're not watching the show. They're just not. A lot of them are just casual WWE fans that are there to see the Hardy Boys and some NXT talent. So they've been getting by on weak creative because of ancillary factors. The Hardy Boys and WWE. That's it, right? And Joe Hendry. I want to give credit to Joe Hendry. And so now that they're on a big network, they have to really up their game and come up with some big time storylines and big time matchups and sign some fresh talent. And if they can, like a couple of like 1 or 2 big name free agents that looks like they got Bear Bronson, not a big name free agent, was not a star in AEW. Most people don't even know who that guy is, to be honest with you. He never really made it in AEW, but that's the type of guy that TNA needs to sign, because if they can build him, he can become kind of a homegrown talent, since he was never really overexposed on AEW TV. Another talent I think they should take a look at, and her contract is coming up. I would bring in Anna Jay. I think she's got something. She's got, but she just couldn't break through the ceiling of AEW because AEW's women's roster is pretty top heavy right now. You got Mercedes Moné and you got Tony Storm, and then it's like everybody else. She was never going to break through that next echelon. They got, obviously now they have Chris Statlander. They're trying to make something out of Chris Statlander. But I think like Anna Jay could be like a blue chip type signing, and that would really fit in well with their knockouts division. I would probably move on from people like Indy Hartwell and Tessa Blanchard and focus on the core group that they have right now. A lot of, your Myla Grace, Harley Hudson, Maggie Lee, Heather Reckless, Mara Sade, who I think has some talent. And there's several other, I focus on them, and then bring in like an Anna Jay type, and then just keep doing what I think they've done a really good job of recruiting female talent. We need to see that on the men's side too. Let's see. Okay. So Heat is on, says, get ready to break the walls down on January 15th. I don't see that one. But there have been rumors. And I had talked to somebody recently that thought maybe that there was a possibility. I just don't see that one. But like I said, nothing is impossible. I would say it's not probable, but I wouldn't say it's impossible either, if that makes sense. But all signs point towards Chris Jericho returning to the WWE. And it looks like the only thing that I would think would deter Jericho from going to the WWE is there was a report out that WWE offered Jericho a deal to do his retirement tour, and he might not be ready to do that. That might be the big deterrent. He doesn't seem like the type that thinks he's done. Okay? So, there you go. Bring back Enzo Zillafatu and Josh Bishop. The only one I agree with there is Josh Bishop. Let's see. Yeah, there needs to be something that grabs you immediately. And Danny Luna. So Danny Luna is probably the person that I would build the entire division around as like your top heel, and then she would be kind of like a fairly regular champion. That's what I would do. But yeah, she's absolutely the type. I think she's got a lot of talent and got a great character. Their promo skills are strong. And obviously, as far as in the ring in that company right now on the female side, I would say she's probably the best. You know, I think we still hold Tessa as far as in the ring to very high regard. But we've only seen that a couple of times. And it was the match with Lei Ying Lee, and it was the match with Jordan Grace, but that had a botched finish, so that sucked. We have not seen her have we've only seen her have 2 like good matches, but we haven't seen her at the level that she was at when she left. So I'm still waiting to see that from her. And I'll be honest, I think TNA should just move on. It's just bring in younger, fresher talent, and Tessa Blanchard can do the CMLL thing, and you know she can have fun there and be one of the top foreign female stars over there. CMLL doesn't really like. Oh, they did just do an all-female show, but for the most part, they don't focus on their female division too much. So, but I would just move on. I would move on from Indy Hartwell. She's not any good. Like, I haven't seen her cut a good promo since she's been in TNA. She's been there a year. I haven't seen her had a good match yet. She's been there, like, she had a passable match, a couple matches with Danny Luna. Giving all credit to Danny on that one. You know, they tried with Indy Hartwell. I know they want to give her the title. I just don't see it. I think it's time to move on. You know who I would sign is Braun Strowman. I'm the only guy in the world that still likes Braun Strowman, but I would bring him in for sure. His cooking show that he's doing, or his eating show where he goes around eating at all these different restaurants, is actually doing really good numbers on USA. And I think it might be done because he's no longer in the company. I would bring him in, and I would treat him like a special attraction, Andre the Giant style figure. He doesn't have to be on every episode, but do big feuds here and there, and kind of treat him the way, you know, ECW would treat 911 back in the day. I would like that. I like him. But yeah, so I think that is going to do it for me this time. Let's go ahead and recap. In fact, TNA is headed to AMC Network. This is the biggest news story in TNA in a long, long time. In the biggest news in a long, long time. Okay, so TNA conference call is coming up in a little bit, is what I'm hearing. Okay, so that's some news, but yeah, this is the biggest story in TNA in a really, really long time. I would say this supplants the WWE partnership story. And this is nothing but a positive. There is no downside. There is no negative here. TNA needs to be celebrated for this and applauded. Carlos Silva and the team. I know he didn't actually get the ball started on the deal, but he's the one that got it over the finish line. So I think he should be lauded for his work on this deal. And I think the whole crew, the wrestlers, the production crew, the producers, coaches, and agents, they work really hard, and I think that they should be lauded. But now that they've finally done this, does this mean that I'm going to be nice to the creative team? Fuck no. I'm going to be worse. I'm holding them to an even higher standard now. There's a group of folks out there, Twitter accounts, that they're on their entire online identity is TNA positivity, and God bless you for it. We do TNA reality here on Brace for Impact. I don't bullshit. I just don't have it in me. I can't tell you something's good when it's bad, right? And I won't tell you something's bad when it's good. I'm going to call it like I see it all the time. And now that they're on a bigger network, they have more eyeballs on them. They have more of a reason to up their game and be better than what they were. And so I'm going to be harder on them now when it comes to taking a month off after Bound for Glory, not doing Thanksgiving specials, when it comes to recycling storylines, not paying off storylines, starting and stopping Jake something, not booking luchadors, right? Like this weekend they're in El Paso, not a single luchador on the card. They got a cage, bringing the cage, and I hope it's the rinky-dink one. But not a single luchador on the card. That's a foul, right? Like, I am going to be even harsher on them. But I'll be back. Gerard says that there's so Gerard saying that the conference call is happening now with TNA talent. So I think more news is going to come out. So, let's see. Stephen Badger, Mike is no fanboy. Yeah. Am I a fan of TNA? Yeah, of course. This is a fan podcast. I'm not a reporter. I'm not a journalist. This started out as a fan podcast. I started this in 2021 because I liked the show. I did. I started covering TNA exclusively. Like, I started like tweeting about TNA exclusively in like 2018, and I started writing articles in 2019. And I started a podcast in 2021 because I'm a fan of the show, and I want them to be better. And some people don't want them to be better. Like, I got into this arguments with people online on Thanksgiving because I was praising Tony Khan for running Thanksgiving. Now I know that the reason why he was on Thursday is because he's avoiding Survivor Series, but I didn't care. I was like, I think it took guts to run Thanksgiving, like do a full card. TNA didn't even do that, right? They did 2 new matches, and then they ran some archival footage, and that was it. And then none of the matches were of any consequence. AEW Collision ran on Thanksgiving and gave you 2 big tournament matches and an Eddie Kingston match where he made the challenge for the World Heavyweight title on Thanksgiving. And it was a good episode. You had Speedball versus Pac. It was a great match. And you had Eddie Kingston versus Shibata, right? Those are big matches. And I think TNA is chicken shit for phoning it in. And obviously Access TV felt the same way because they postponed the show till midnight. So I don't think they would have done that had TNA given them something to put on, right? So yes, they were. They were recorded on Wednesday, and TNA is pre-recorded every week too. So everybody's saying that Mike, TNA is just giving their talent time off. No, they're not. They're avoiding a bad night on television, right? They're avoiding losing live viewership. But guess what? It's live American viewership for one. A lot of people watch on demand. A lot of people watch all over the world. Thanksgiving only exists in America. Like, there's Canadian Thanksgiving, but that's in October, right? They don't take October off, even though Sportsnet is like their second biggest station. They don't take October off, right? So, or they don't take the Thanksgiving off in October, although they actually did this year because they took a month off after Bound for Glory. I think that's just chicken shit to take Thanksgiving off. And if I were them, I would take it as a challenge, and I would run a big show on Thanksgiving and make it a Thanksgiving tradition. I have a lot of ideas for what they could do. And I don't like the fact that they do that. And they're not giving their talent time off because the show is recorded weeks in advance. So it's not like there's an issue where people have to work on Thanksgiving. They're still putting out a show on Thanksgiving. It's just not anything anybody wants to watch. I say give people something to watch. That's my argument. But a lot of people are saying, like, I had a guy in my comments saying, well, I would much rather watch Ryan Nemeth in a turkey suit than see Jon Moxley bleed. First of all, Jon Moxley wasn't on the card, so you made that up. But second of all, if that's what you like, good. That doesn't mean that TNA shouldn't have given like a full card. If TNA wants to continue the turkey suit match, whatever, right? Some people like it, okay? My argument is full card every year for Thanksgiving. Stack it. Do it. All right, and Nora Sparks says, we appreciate me and BQ. Yeah, BQ is the same way. BQ doesn't sugarcoat stuff. I don't sugarcoat stuff. You know, I just have a different background. Obviously, I grew up playing sports and in football locker rooms and wrestling locker rooms. And, of course, I spent 21 years in the military where protecting feelings wasn't like a thing. And my dad raised me that way. I'm different on my kids. Sometimes I'm a little tough, and then my wife's like, that's not your airman. So be nice. And I'm like, okay. And then I apologize and give hugs and kisses. But, you know, my dad was tough on me. My uncles were tough on me. My football coaches were tough. My wrestling coach was tough. My wrestling coach, I forgot my wrestling shoes one time. And he goes, Gilbert, how tall are you? And I said, oh, I'm 5'11", sir. And he goes, I didn't realize shit stacked that high. I was like 14. So like, I got thick skin. So when I say mean shit about TNA when they do bullshit on television, that's not a big deal to me. And I get the feeling that that's off-putting. And I understand that people don't want to support me because that's fine. I can only be me, and that's it. And if you thought that my coverage was crazy before, now that they're on AMC, we're getting to another level because they've reached another level. So you got to hold their feet to the fire for sure. Because if you only ever tell them that all they're doing is good, they're never going to get better. They're just not. They're going to start believing that shit. And you got to tell them what's good, and but more importantly, you got to tell them what's bad. Because we are the consumers. We pay money for their app. We pay money for the pay-per-views. We buy tickets. We buy merch. So we should be able to tell them what we like and what we don't like. Okay. And that is not hurting them one bit to tell them what you don't like. And they should listen to it. If they did listen to it, they'd be a lot better off. Okay. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me this time on Brace for Impact. I'm going to be probably doing another video at some point soon. And until next time, mahalo.